Gamecock fans, now you can have your coffee and also support the Gamecocks in a championship quest to get to the top of the SEC and the top of the country by going to GamecockCoffee.com and purchasing Rise and Shine New Orleans Roast Gourmet Coffee. All of your purchases go to benefit Garnet Trust and put NIL dollars in the coffer of the Gamecocks official NIL collective. Check it out today and support the Gamecocks NIL. Good morning, Gamecock fans, and welcome in to Coffee. I'm JC Shurburtt. Today is Wednesday, March the 12th, the year of our Lord 2025, and certainly thrilled to death, tickled pink, excited. I don't know, name your emotion to be here with you today. It's kind of funny. I've been looking forward to Wednesday since Monday. And here's why. I think we kind of got spoiled there because this is the time of year where all the sports are kind of doing something, right? You got basketball into March and postseason play on both ends. You got baseball. Softball has become something we all pay attention to this year and probably will continue to. Spring football and recruiting are heating up. It's a busy time, and I think that yours truly here is kind of getting spoiled with 2 baseball games a week, 3 on the weekend, and other stuff to kind of follow, like basketball. And so on Monday, I'm used to Mondays not having anything, right? But the Tuesday came, and there was nothing going on. Sport. There's always something going on around here. But there was no game. There were no games. So, and in football, obviously, there's not a lot during the week, but you're talking about the next week's game or the week game in 2 weeks. And so, I don't know. I don't want to say I was bored, but I was a little lost. But today, that's changing. That's changing today. Gamecocks men's basketball team could be the last game of the year. Could be lost 20. They're going to get 20 losses unless they win the national championship. Unless I'm reading the record wrong, which I read the date for the start of spring practice wrong on yesterday's coffee episode. That my 9 looked like a 4. And so it's like the 14th. No, it's March 19th. So next Wednesday, spring football practice gets started. I've been making too many mistakes like that lately, but so apologies for that. So they're not open anymore anyway. I would have felt a lot worse and probably gone in and put a little note on there. Had it been the Spurrier era and they're open and people would drive up on Friday and, oh, man, that could have been a disaster. But they're not open, so you can't go anyway. But nothing wrong with clarifying that today. So the record is 12-19. And so, it's probably coming. That's unfortunate. You never want to lose 20 in a season, but it was and it was all the conference. I mean, they're sitting there 10 games above 500 before the conference started. But Arkansas is an interesting opponent. I think at this point, if South Carolina wins today, it's their 4th straight win over the Razorbacks. And it will be and they beat them twice last year, Eric Musselman's last team. And then it'll be their 4th. Lamont Paris will go to 4-0 against John Calipari. Calipari will lose 4 straight because he lost 2 straight at Kentucky. So it'd be kind of fun if the Gamecocks win. They get Ole Miss. That's certainly a team they matched up with well in Columbia. And then if they win that one, they get Auburn. And ditto for Auburn, but I think we know Auburn's pretty good. Gamecocks or anybody plays 2 straight games and then runs into a rested Auburn bunch. And they travel, up to Nashville. It's not that bad. So there'll be an Auburn crowd there. Arkansas travels pretty well, too. I was at that game with the Gamecocks and Razorbacks last year, and it wasn't a massive crowd in Nashville, but Arkansas still travels for basketball. But, man, it's it would be a miracle. And I don't say that often because I always believe anything can happen in any sport. But yeah, that would be the story of the year in college basketball if the Gamecocks somehow made it out. I read an interview in the Charleston Post-Courier by Scott Hamilton with Greg Sankey this morning, and he alluded to, Lamont Paris's team's been close, and if they get on a roll, you never know. And I'm like, well, I do. I don't. I'm not. If there's something positive, I'll emphasize it. But and it's not positive or negative; it's just reality. And plus, the SEC tournament's been tough. And you're talking. I don't know if a team's ever won five in a row to get a conference title in the SEC. I know Georgia came through the bracket one year and won it. That was the year that they had the tornado with the Georgia Dome. They had to finish it up at Georgia Tech. But I don't know if that was 5 games. Maybe it was. I don't know. Nevertheless, it starts today, and hey, guess what? It'd be fun to beat John Calipari again. I don't dislike Cal. I don't want you guys to think that I have some kind of something against him. I thought it was a smart hire by Arkansas and all that. I just think it's kind of funny that the way the two coaches sort of recruit. Um, a lot of discussion about basketball roster this year, and Cal had as good of a roster as anybody. He's got more one and doneers and 5 stars coming in to Arkansas next year. Plenty of NIL, and they're 19 and 12. Probably hope to get that 8 or 9 seed, maybe higher. Uh, so we'll see. And he's won the tournament a couple. I mean, he was good at Kentucky in the SEC tournament, so it's been the big dance he struggled in. So who knows? They may get on a roll, and we may be by the end of Inside the Gamecocks, the show, which will start at noon today. Well, right around tip off. So no, I'm sorry, I get the Central Time thing confused. So it starts around noon to 2. So right around the time we finish Inside the Gamecocks, the show with myself and Phil, the game will be an hour in. So we may know this team, the Gamecocks, obviously hung with Tennessee. That game was in doubt in the first half. So who knows? But that starts at 1, SEC Network. Interesting enough, Jay Billis is doing the color analysis for the game. So they're sending a big dog in to Nashville. Softball's back in action tonight before they hit the field again against Georgia this weekend in SEC play. Looking to snap a 3-game losing streak, a respectable one. And they play the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina. And at Ray Tanner Field at Founders Park, Georgia State comes in to play the Gamecocks. I think these two teams met in Augusta, either North Augusta, either last year or the year before. Maybe it's Augusta. Where's the baseball stadium in Augusta? I think it is North Augusta. Anyway, it was a close game, 4-3. Jamie Bradford said yesterday on the morning show, beware of them. They can hit the ball. I think they're 12-4 is the record. I did not write that down, but the Gamecocks, it's I'm going to point something out here, folks. I'm going to throw a little baseball, throw a curveball at you, if you will. That's not the main subject, so don't turn off coffee. You don't want to hear me talk about baseball for 30 minutes. Unless it's kind of some big, I've written some big picture stuff about standards and stuff like that, but it's much better at writing than talking about it. But I did want to point this out to you, fine ladies and gentlemen, this morning. Here is the SEC baseball schedule for this weekend. We thought basketball was tough. We thought football was tough, and football was, despite what anybody says. Your strength of conference, by the way, I don't understand why media and the people that rank the teams and all that good stuff. By the way, there was some good information in the Scott Hamilton piece. It's behind a paywall, so I don't want to give all the details. Charleston Post-Courier that I have a subscription to. David Cloninger works for them too, does a fantastic job. It's worth it to cover. That's the one newspaper outlet that I like to read, just as far as the Gamecocks are concerned, and other sports and news items. They don't need my endorsement, obviously, but they do a good job. And in there, they talk about the college football playoff selection committee. But I get sidetracked on that. Ward Manuel, some would say, is living rent free in my head. Nevertheless, maybe we'll get into a little more on the show later today with Phil and myself. But listen to this baseball schedule for this weekend. All right, Kentucky in the College World Series last year at number 4 Georgia. Now these rankings came off the SEC's official website. I'm assuming it's D1, but it didn't say, So if it's another poll and you love D1 and it's wrong, hey man, maybe there needs to be a composite poll for college baseball. That's not a bad idea. Maybe I should invent that. So Kentucky at number 4, Georgia. Kentucky in the College World Series for the first time last year. Number 7, Florida. At number 2, Tennessee. Oh, God, that's going to be a good. That's like the old Tennessee Florida football game in the 90s. 16th ranked Vanderbilt at 25th ranked Auburn. Auburn was horrible last year. They're in the top 25 this year. Number 11, Texas. Welcome to the SEC, Texas Longhorns, because you have to go to Mississippi State, unranked Mississippi State. But that is an environment, don't we know? And with the Longhorns coming in there, I think they've played in baseball before. I think it seems like Texas went to a regional there at some point. Maybe they played the non-conference, but this is SEC baseball now. So get ready for the clang, 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 and the condos in the outfield. And, oh, that is a Taj Mahal of college baseball out in Starkville. At Ray Tanner Field at Founders Park, the Oklahoma Sooners come in. Oklahoma's 12th ranked in the country. Challenging first series, but then after that, it's amazing what the Gamecocks have to play out of conference as well with Charleston and North Carolina, and then at Arkansas, and Tennessee comes in. Number 17, Bama. At number 19, Texas A&M. Texas A&M's 9-6, but still ranked 19th in the country because I think people feel like it's just a matter of time. They have a lot of players off the team that almost won it all last year coming back. That may be one of those situations where players are bored. But anyway, that's a top 20 battle. Missouri is at LSU. LSU's ranked number 1. So Alex Box Stadium will have the Tigers versus Tigers. And then also in the state of Mississippi, the aforementioned third-ranked Arkansas Razorbacks and Dave Dan Horn will be heading to play Ole Miss. Another great atmosphere. Get a beer shower in the outfield with a home run in Oxford. So, man, you look at this and you just go, good, great, googly moogly. What in the world? It just doesn't get any easier in this league, folks. And if you're the Gamecocks and you're a Gamecock baseball fan, don't get hopeless until it looks hopeless. And honestly, there could be a 1-8 start in the SEC or something ugly like that. But as we all know, baseball can turn. You start getting hot, you start hitting, the weather changes, the pitching the lineup starts to click. I'm very hesitant to predict much about this baseball team either way right now. But I'll tell you this, nothing would help them more than a huge crowd at Founders Park this weekend. And I haven't looked at the weather forecast for Columbia yet, but if it's nice, just head on out there. If you're in town, head on out there, man. They're 0-0 in the SEC, regardless of what happens against Georgia State tonight. So, if you're going to go down swinging. That's what I say. And I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I literally just have a gut feeling on this. It's just, I have a gut feeling that we'd have to start seeing some signs of change or for the better with regards to this baseball team and all that good stuff. And year one of a coach, sometimes you're not as good. I don't think coaching has much to do with it, but we'll see what happens. It'd be big if they could win the series this weekend against the Sooners. I'll tell you that right now, because like I said, it doesn't get any easier. Turning around and going to Arkansas, and you got Holbrook and Charleston playing at Segra. Then you got the North Carolina thing. I mean, the non-con in the midweek's kind of front-loaded a little bit. North Carolina's 6th in the country. So we'll see kind of how things work out for the Gamecocks. But tonight, it starts with Georgia State. You can get the record to 15-3. And that's a night. You want to win all you can, because if it gets close and dicey at the end, as far as an NCAA tournament bid, the midweek wins can help you. I don't know how good Georgia State will ultimately be, but they're not terrible. Not terrible. So baseball tonight as well. Baseball, softball, men's basketball, full day of Gamecock athletics, and we'll have you covered here. I want to just give you a quick, before we get into our football topic, which I think you guys and gals will like, a quick rundown of the Chief Sports schedule today. This morning on the Chief Sports app, Tailgate Talks will drop with Pat DeMarco and legendary Steven Garcia. They're both really legends. We know them. We love them. That's also available on Gamecock Plus, the Gamecocks Plus, and in video format. Audio on the Chief Sports app, obviously, if you want to listen to it. Um, the guest is Nick Emanware. So good to grab him post combine and kind of get some thoughts from Nick. And I think that's cool. I'm looking forward to it myself. The late night Gamecock show tonight to wrap everything up with Matt and Alex, assuming something doesn't come up. That show, it usually starts around 8 between Matt and Alex. It's a great listen. It's just during this time of year with Alex covering 3 sports, and you don't want to have a live show right during when they're playing, unless it's like a set thing like today we'll be on during the basketball game, Phil and I. And sometimes, if honestly, if the Gamecocks were like, if this were last year, we probably would cut it on tip off. But honestly, people want to talk about other things besides men's basketball right now, so we're having a show. But yeah, so you usually want to do that. But with a weekly that kind of moves around a little bit, it's sometimes it's Tuesday, sometimes during football we'll have a set night unless something happens professionally or personally where they can't get to it. But late night's supposed to be tonight. JC and Morgan was yesterday. Great conversation with Dan Wetzel. The podcast version of that will be up today. It takes that show a while to render, and so on Spotify and wherever you consume that. Really great conversation. I talked about the Clemson Carolina game a little bit, and if it may, is it going to affect these in-state rivalry games? If the SEC goes to 9 and requires a Big Ten game, my guess is if it's automatic bids from a conference, no, because your non-conference is going to matter for seeding and bragging rights and rankings and all that. Because by God, if you're sitting on 3 losses, by God, the committee's not giving you a home game, even if you win one of the play-ins or finish top 4. But that's a little bit more reasonable when you're dealing with your conference record determining your postseason fate, as far as do you get in or not. So that makes me think, well, it's not going to be the travesty we think with regards to playing too tough of a non-conference schedule at the end of the day. In that case, it almost like a bigger computer component with it. Because obviously the committees have been told, I mean, I can't believe they've been told not to factor strength of schedule, just do it the old way. And so you're going to be looking at a lot of first round road games in a 14 team field, but unless you win the league, I don't know. So we'll see what happens there. Again, getting off track, JC, with the committee, but so good conversation with Dan yesterday. Please go check that out. Also want to tell you about coffee, GamecockCoffee.com. One of several ways you can help NIL and Garnet Trust. The Wild West is still in effect for this basketball off season, the next portal window in football, maybe baseball. And small dollar purchases really help those causes. And so go buy your coffee, 1 pound bag, Rise and Shine New Orleans roast. Also, I want to tell you that golf gloves are in at my friend Brandon's Palmetto Golf and Belts, palmettogolfing.com. Good stuff for an affordable price. All right, so let's get to the football topic today because I need to get this up and get it out to you folks. So hail McGranahan on thebigspur.com, and you can join now for $1. A monthly membership, or use code BIGSPUR50 for half off an annual, or pay full price monthly or annually and get Paramount Plus for free. Anyway, that's VIP. He sat down with Mike Shula, interviewed Mike about the offense. Some good stuff, good quotes in there. But behind the scenes, we talked a little yesterday about the report that Tony Morrell had about changing the run game up. So I did some digging into this. And I mentioned it yesterday that, if you take the read part out of things, sometimes we don't really think about it being easier on your offensive line, assignment wise, but it is. And many times last year, You look and there were mistakes assignment wise. Some guys did just get beat, right? And you're going to in this league, but sometimes guys more didn't go to the right place, didn't block the right person. Uh, were kind of like a bad linebacker. It took false step. Oh crap! And then had to get back. You don't want your offensive line to think too much, in my opinion, in college football. I think in the pros, it's a different thing. And Dowell Loggins, to his credit, with his system, he didn't do any things as egregiously as Marcus Satterfield. As far as, I mean, I saw one time they had a tackle pull all the way around, and it was based on something from the Rams. And I'm like, the guy from the Rams that's doing that is 6'5", 300 pounds of rock solid muscle. Uh, he went to Iowa where he's an All American. He runs 4.8, and he's a pro, and he's 26 years old. You can't ask your tackle that, you know, is good, not great, and runs 5'2" to do that and it be successful. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And those aren't specific players. I'm using that as kind of a hypothetical with the Rams and the player. But there were just some bad things. Pulling your guard's one thing. Heck, Torricelli Simpkins was really good at that last year. Having all these intricate, like, go here, go here. I just don't know that in college, unless you're a system team, and I said this yesterday, like Rich Rodriguez or something like that, and you just do it, you rep it over and over and over and over again. I think it hurts you. I think it hurts you. Obviously, defenses are smart, coordinators are smart, and if your front's doing the same thing over and over and over again, they pick up on your tendencies. And so I don't think you want to tip plays, but I also think that you can do too much. And I'm not saying that's why the offensive line didn't play well. There's a lot of issues. There were a lot of issues last year, disappointing issues, right? Because they weren't overly injured. They had one major injury, and the line actually played really well when that injury happened, when Josiah Thompson went out and Tree came in. So I like that idea, because the idea is, okay, we're not going to, this in theory should help the O-line. We're going to do less triple option zone reading and stuff like that. And the triple option, that's hard to do too if you don't rep it. It's not like the basic part of your offense. And I understand why Dowell Loggins put it in. I thought that was smart conceptually to put it in, because you got LaNorris Sellers and Rocket Sanders, and you have a kind of a revolving door at wide receiver, and it worked some of the time, yeah, but sometimes it didn't. Mike Shula is more of a pro style guy, in the sense that obviously Dowell Loggins was a coordinator in the NFL for 20 years, but Dowell kind of borrowed that from, and I hate to even say you old timers, or you somewhat old school Gamecock fans, those that were around in the 2000s. Remember Houston Nutt at Arkansas and kind of what they did with Matt Jones, and then they had the Wildcat for a while, and those principles. Dowell Loggins played for Houston Nutt, so he knows, and that's where that came from. Not bad. I mean, I'm just saying, and I'm not blaming that on the failures of the O-line at all. I'm just saying that, like, hey, I don't care. Get it right, and so that was encouraging. South Carolina last season, despite offensive line issues, and despite the fact that the run blocking was the most egregiously bad part of it. Everybody struggles with pass blocking at times. You have a first-year starter quarterback. A back could miss a block. A tight end could miss a block. I mean, you're facing blitzes and freak athletes just about every week. But run blocking, man, when you just don't know, when you're blocking air because you didn't go in the right spot, or you just kind of don't engage with the guy, and it breaks down, and you're not giving your talented running back, Rocket Sanders, anywhere to run. To me, what did it for me was Akron, believe it or not, because they were kind of beating the crap out of him. Robbie Ashford's running and throwing all over them. But then you look and it's like this one guy from Akron, there was a safety and a D tackle that just were all over the place. Like, what are you doing? Who's supposed to block that guy? And that happened a lot. It did. Amazingly enough, it didn't happen against the best front they played all year. Probably. I would, yeah, Ole Miss was good too, but I would say Texas A&M was the best front they played all year and ran all over them. Whew. So I don't know. But I don't care, what they do. I don't know. I don't care how they do it. I think this is smart on Mike Shula's part to, simplify it as much as you can and just rely on your big, athletic, and talented individual offensive linemen to go do their part and do their job and narrow their job and narrow their focus. But I don't care. If it's complicated and they can get it, just do it. Right. Everybody's sick of seeing no holes, including the backs, right? This is a very together brotherhood football program, so there's no, I guess, animosity about it. But if you're a running back and you see these big old athletic guys up in front of you, you're probably feeling pretty good, and then boom, it doesn't happen. And I'm not saying that they're going to avoid being stuffed on a 3rd and short or 4th and short or anything like that. That happens to everybody. But I think just in general, being able to establish the run, and that's kind of the focus here, is important. South Carolina, in spite of all that, all the struggles up front, all the ugly plays, all the shoot. I remember Rocket Sanders 15 carries for 33 yards against Oklahoma, and he was playing his butt off. The game was over, basically. Rockets lay it out for a pass. That's when I said, well, stats aren't telling the whole story here. This guy's playing hard. But ugly stat lines, all that, in spite of all that, South Carolina was much better. It was the best rushing year in a while as far as consistently being able to do it. A lot of that was LaNorris Sellers getting yardage. I mean, he had 600 and something, 625 yards on the ground. If you took sacks out of it, which they do in the NFL, he's probably close to 1,000 rushing yards from scrimmage. And so that helped get the run game going. But, Rocket Sanders also had 891 rushing yards. And statistically, it was a good game. So in today's era of college football, you have to be able to throw it. Again, I'll bring up Rich Rod and Gus Malzahn and those types of offense. They have to throw it, obviously it has to be part of it. But you can get by with a quarterback that really isn't a thrower. But if you don't have a passing game, you're usually in trouble, or your chances of being a high level football team was kind of diminished. That said, when you talk about all that, you're probably also not going very far if you can't run the ball. And if you're one of the teams that can establish the run, you have a chance to be really, really good. That's just the fact. I mean, because people know that you're going to have to throw it. So most everybody has a decent passing game. Not everybody can line up and run it. And then there's teams that can line up and run it that'll have very bad days running the football. So it's going to be critical that South Carolina on offense next year finds a way to run it. And Mike Shula, I believe, has a good plan for that. I've mentioned doing more of just non-read plays. Okay, so in other words, it's like this is a dive. We're gonna do this here, and this is gonna be here. And you block it up. You let your backs kind of naturally cut, read the hole, all that good stuff. I mean, I love the tall sweep still. One thing in the bowl game they did that I liked, and I mentioned this, is having a lead blocker. Designed runs for Sellers, which I think that's a good idea. I think we all in the bowl wanted to see LaNorris Sellers run a little more. Those weren't play calls. I believe, and I've heard some things that back this up, folks. He over adjusted. I mean, he's still an emerging quarterback. He's still a guy that's learning the position, and I think that the coaching staff definitely emphasized, hey, give the pass a chance. Steve Spurrier did that a lot here. Most coaches do because it's like, well, this is open. Instead of running and getting hit and trying to juke out the entire team, you can throw it here. This guy's wide open. He should catch it. Um, trust the play, give the pass play a little more time, stand in the pocket. And I'll say this: Sellers was not bad at sitting in the pocket and delivering. He had several games where he's good. It was just kind of inconsistent. And in the bowl, you had wide open field in front of you. I also think that the pass blocking in the bowl game was really good because Illinois was dropping people, and it was almost like, oh crap, I'm here, I'm not getting pressured. I need to give this time, and it's like green grass, red rum. I hadn't seen a clip from The Shining was on my Instagram reels for a long time. I saw a lot of clips from that movie. Hadn't seen it in a while. Anyway, green grass, go. And so he's got to learn that. Clemson, his clock was because Clemson just blitzed the whole. I mean, and got pressure with whoever. Their plan coming. They were going to Brent Venables him. Kind of like what Brent Venables, I believe, kind of like what they did to Jalen Milroe. Well, Sellers isn't Jalen Milroe, and he burnt them to the ground and sent Wes Godwin packing. Honestly, so for 166 yards, but his clock was. I mean, he would. It was timed up well. The pressure would come in. He'd do a Houdini. The first run he had in the Clemson game, that I have no words for how that happened. 70-yard run. Unfortunately, he fumbled later, and the Gamecocks did not score, but we'll forgive him for that. Illinois, it looked like he was almost too patient in the pocket. Not necessarily hesitant to run, but really trying to give the passing game time because unlike Clemson, where it's kamikaze attack and there's orange coming at you everywhere, Illinois kind of just kind of patient, kind of drop back. So he's got to find the sweet spot there. But as far as running the football goes, and because I absolutely do not think under any circumstances South Carolina is going to be a very successful offense if LaNorris Sellers' legs aren't part of it. It's not that he's not a good thrower because I think he will improve quite a bit next year, and I think he was pretty damn good last year. We talked about the revolving door at receiver, blah blah blah. When he had to throw it in certain games, he was really good. And in high school, he was that kind of guy. He threw for a ton of yards, but also could hurt you with his legs. I think that has to happen last year. I think it's unrealistic to turn him into a pocket passer where he just sits back and throws. Why not use it? If you use it or lose it, man. So I think that has to happen in next year, and that needs to be part of the running game. And it will be. You don't have to run zone read to have a run quarterback runs. And then there's the off schedule plays and things of that nature, which he's very, very good at, and he'll find the sweet spot. So running the ball with your backs. South Carolina obviously is going to have a battle at running back. There's no Rocket Sanders. There won't be and I say that because Rocket Sanders is a rare back. I mean, I know he's 217 at the combine. He's going to play at about 230, but he's fast. Breakaway, nobody's catching him. He can run for power. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. Those types of backs at that size are just, you just don't see them. I think had he not been injured in the past, that the pros, I mean, he would be way high at running back with this running backs class this year. Ashton Jeanty would be up there for me. Rocket Sanders would be up there for me too. Probably not ahead of Jeanty. I think the Bears are actually going to see about taking Ashton Jeanty, but he's second, third round guy. So you're not going to replace that guy because he's rare. But just like I'll take you back away. You're not going to replace Marcus Lattimore, right? But Mike Davis and Brandon Wiles are pretty damn good, weren't they? So that's what I mean when you say can't replace Rocket. And there's going to be, Rasul Faison is a guy that's being talked up, the transfer portal guy from Utah State. There's Attaway back for his seventh year. He was the backup last year. I love Jawarn Howell and Matt Fuller. That's going to be a battle. And I think establishing the run with those backs and Sellers and being, creative with it as far as, you can't just run inside zone all day long unless you're gutting them. You got to kind of mix it up a little bit these days. And most importantly, block. I think that'll help. And I think Mike Shula is doing all he can from a schematic standpoint as far as the changes go to implement a way for the Gamecocks to be successful. Because, like I said, passing the ball is everything in college football these days. You can't be one dimensional. You can't have a bad passing game. Teams are too good against the run, and they tee off, and your quarterback sucks or whatever. You're not gonna do much. But if you could run the ball well, it's still very simple. The teams that run the ball the best, they can also pass. That's an advantage and a luxury in the Southeastern Conference. So I'm looking forward to seeing. Let's kind of wrap things up here as far as the changes go. Simplified run blocking scheme, an offensive line that mano a mano can handle the teams they're going to play and be the individually and collectively the type of players they're capable of being, and hopefully simplifying things happen. The backs having holes to run through, because I believe too, they have holes to run through. These guys are all very capable of putting up yards. And then LaNorris Sellers finding the sweet spot as far as when to run and when to stick with the pass. And if you could do that, I think you can run the football, keep the chains moving. I don't believe this is going to be a ball control offense, but I also don't believe they're going to go a million miles an hour all the time. I think if you can establish the run and keep your defense off the field, and with so many new faces on defense, kind of rebuilding that's probably smart, especially early. Establishing the run is going to be the big, wide receivers need wide receiver one, all that talk, step up, who's going to be the back, uh, you know, overall establishing the run is going to be the first objective, I believe, for this offensive football team heading into the first month of the season, opening with the Virginia Tech Hokies on Sunday, August 31st at Mercedes-Benz in Atlanta. All right, I'm going to get out of here. This has been Coffee with JC Shurburtt each and every morning, Monday through Friday. We have some specials from now and then on weekends that we do. When recruiting picks back up, we'll start having instant analysis and some things like that. Oh, I did want to tell you about recruiting real quick. By the way, here's another person that's speaking of recruiting and defensive tackle. Another individual, Gabriel Brownlow Dindy, this time in an interview with Alex Jones on the Big Spur, which you can read for free. It's not behind a paywall if you go there. He also complimented Devontae Miles. Devontae Miles, the more I hear about it, and of course he's the D tackle from Bowling Green that they got in the portal. Didn't even start at Bowling Green last year from the state of Michigan. So I'm hearing he's doing good things in workouts. I'm not surprised because athletically on film he looks like that. What I want to see is him go against Big Tree if they move Tree to left guard or right guard. Go. What are you going to do when you got that double team of Boaz Stanley and Big Tree on you? You're going to be able to fight through it and stuff like that. I mean, it's not that I don't know that I don't think he can do it. I just haven't seen it. He's a mystery. There's nothing on film out there that I can find that's like that. Congratulations to Demetrius Knight, one of the NFL draft boards has him as a top 50 pick overall in the draft. So early second round, he graded out as an A plus, right? Recruiting. Yeah. Landen Duckworth. Watch Carolina get him, and I look like a fool. Watch this. This will happen because I've been saying I don't see it. I still don't see it. I think there's a reason he decommitted. I think he likes Carolina. I just don't know that that's going to be the guy. I think, and I honestly, folks, I think Hale and Alex disagree with me. I think they actually think that. And I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying it doesn't make much sense where I'm sitting based on what I'm hearing and things of that nature. But he is going to visit officially on June 6th. Georgia has him scheduled for the 30th of May. Surprising. But I was told and did read that if Georgia does not get Jared Curtis and he goes to Oregon, Landon Duckworth's kind of their next guy. Florida State, June 13th, after the Gamecocks are June 6th. Florida State, June 13th, and the Ole Miss Rebels are rocking and rolling with that June 20th. They get the final visit. So we'll see what happens with Landon Duckworth. You know, he is obviously a very talented player. I love him. Also, Brady Smigel got a crystal ball for Washington the other day. As long as he still visits, Carolina's still in the game. I wouldn't panic about the crystal ball or prediction right now, but I'll say that to be honest, that Washington's another team, and probably I would call them the leader at this point because he hasn't visited. But keep an eye on that one too. And then if it doesn't happen with either one of those guys, keep an eye on the high school ranks, and then maybe a little Gilmore from Gaffney that's committed to Arkansas, or maybe you roll back and just hit the portal for a player with Brady from California. I would not be surprised based on some latest intel that I got, just kind of reading the tea leaves based on what I was told. If Aaron Nolan being there may not, I don't want to say scare him off, but kind of based on a conversation I had last night, actually. Gosh, I can't believe I forgot to mention all this. So a glorious ending to coffee today. Based on the conversation I had last night, that Aaron Ola may indeed cause them to say, well, we're just not going to go. We're not worried about going across country and visiting anybody. South Carolina's good with Nolan. We're just going to go ahead and commit to UW. I do know UW, Washington, that's their guy, Jed Fish's guy. And they've got pretty good NIL money on the table for him. And so, don't shoot me if he commits to Washington early and never visits. But like I said, as long as he visits, Carolina's got a chance to turn the tide. They do like the program. They love Beamer. They love Shula. They're very interested in coming south, in the Southeast in particular. Remember, they're committed to Florida State. So we'll see how all that shakes out, but wanted to give you an update there on the quarterbacks as we finish. See you later today on Inside the Gamecocks, the show with myself and Phil. We'll have an hour and then have another hour and talk about the Gamecocks and Arkansas in the SEC basketball tournament. This is JC Shurburtt. This has been Coffee. Have a great hump day, everyone. Holla at you soon.